Are you ready for Season 2 of Discography? I'm your host, Mark with a C, and Discography is a show where we look at a great artist through the lens of only their canon albums of first release material to see who they really are and how it all stacks up. And you should know that for Season 2, we will be discussing the albums by the one, the only Janet Jackson. Singer, songwriter, dancer, actress, a household name, one of the biggest stars the Western world has ever known, and though she sold over 100 million records worldwide, few have really poured through her canonical albums to see how they stack up. From her unsung early recordings to the genre-defining albums Rhythm Nation and Velvet Rope, all the way to 2015's Unbreakable, we're taking the deepest dive into Janet Jackson's studio records one can possibly imagine. Season 2 of Discography premieres on July 17th, 2018, only on Consequence Podcast Network.
Consequence Podcast Network.
Welcome to another edition of Kyle Meredith With. It's an audio interview series presented by WFPK Independent Louisville at WFPK.org, Consequence of Sound, and the Consequence Podcast Network. Wherever you're listening from today, hit that subscribe button right now so you can keep up with this series and all of our interviews. I'm Kyle Meredith. Today my guest is Sarah Bettens of the band K's Choice. They've just released not only a live album celebrating their 25th anniversary, but a brand new record called Love Equals Music that ties in to a television show. We also go back in time to talk about their involvement with Buffy The Vampire Slayer and the 20th anniversary of their album Cocoon Crash, and what we can expect from K's Choice in the future. It's Kyle Meredith with K's Choice.
Hi, how are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Fine, thank you.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be talking to you today.
Great talking to you too.
Well, first off, it looks like it's been a very busy year for K's Choice. I mean, I want to get to the new record here in just a moment, but you guys sort of got started into the new year with a live album, right?
Yeah, just celebrating the 25 years of K's Choice, which has been super fun. It's bittersweet, you know. On the one hand, it's like, wow, we're super old. And at the same time, you know, very proud of what we've done. And mostly because we still are having a good time, and we still feel like we're making records that we're very proud of, and we realize that that's not a given for everybody to still be going and still be together and still be having a good time and still feel creative. So it's been a fun way to celebrate.
I mean, just to repeat you on some of that too. I mean, 25 years. That's definitely a huge accomplishment. And you know, even make it past 10 years and still. You know.
I know. Everything is so, you know, it's just so fast right now. I mean, when we started, you know, there was time. There was time for artist development, and, you know, you didn't have to have the single out, and then if it's not successful in the first 10 days, your career's over. Like, so that, you know, we kind of had the luxury, I think, of coming up in a time where we had some time to develop as a band and develop as songwriters. But it's nice to have the longevity now. And even in this day and age where everything's going so fast, we still have our loyal fan base who keeps looking for that same thing.
Now, where was the album itself recorded? Was this at the end of the tour?
Yeah, it was. It's one of those places that's kind of almost like a home away from home. It's a place in Brussels. It's a beautiful venue, and actually, of all the venues I've played in the world, especially of that size, it's about a 1800 size, I think. It's one of the best venues I've ever played in. Sound-wise, it's built especially for that. They have a recording studio attached to it. And that's always like when we do a tour in Europe, that's kind of like our hometown, even though we didn't grow up in Brussels, but that's our Belgian show where, you know, our fans from the beginning come, and it's always a big night for us. So we thought it was appropriate to do the recording there, but we specifically scheduled it not at the beginning of the tour, so we'd be nice and ready, and it wouldn't be one of those nerve-wracking, like, oh my gosh, we've never done this, and now everything's going to be recorded live kind of deal.
Right. Well, I know one of the cool things about this too. It's the live recording debut of Virgin State of Mind, which one of your great
That's
songs.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that.
I'd point out that one sort of famous for being on the Buffy the Vampire Slayer soundtrack, and I don't know if you've heard, but they're now rebooting that show. They're bringing it back different.
I just read that somewhere. Yeah, I was like, oh, we got to get a song in there.
It's exactly what you have to do.
Yeah, that was really, that was really special for us. And it's kind of like that song has really held up with Buffy fans. Like, we, all over the world where we go, and we were just in Israel not that long ago, and people talk about that episode and that song. And especially also here in the States, it made a big impact because it had such a cult following, and then the fact that not only the song was in the show, but that we actually got to be in it in the episode was very special.
When I met my wife and we started talking music, I think it was in the very first week we got together, she said, "But have you heard that song? Do you know this song?"
Oh, how cool.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. No, I mean, how we associate visuals and music all the time. And, especially, I came up and I was a late teen in the late 90s, going into my 20s, and just seemed like everything was soundtrack related at that point. And, I have that attachment as well to, those songs and those episodes, and I can still picture every single one of them when they come on.
Yeah, that's funny. It's actually interesting when I think about it because it's one of those songs that we had at the ready because it didn't fit onto any of our records. And often when a song doesn't fit, it's because it's just not good enough. There rarely are there ever like gems that like, it didn't make the record, because it just wasn't the right, right fit or something. It's usually because it's just not quite, doesn't quite hold up like the other ones do. And I feel like Virgin State of Mind was truly an exception. It really was too different from the rock stuff that we had going at that time. But we were dying to use it for something, and it was such a perfect opportunity to use it for that. We never really, I have a solo project going right now where that's electronic and no rock and stuff. But other than that, like with Case Choice, we've never really ventured in that direction, even though the song was so successful.
Yeah, well, I'm so happy you all did. Certainly.
Thanks.
Yeah, actually, while we're kind of hanging around that era, I did want to bring up, because this is the 20th anniversary year of Cocoon Crash. I don't know, since we're sort of, like I said, in that space and time, what comes to mind when you think about that one? Because this was the follow-up to basically a breakthrough record, a worldwide smash. This is the one that comes after that.
I have very mixed emotions about Cocoon Crash, not about the quality of the record, and we were able to do amazing things with it, but I'll always feel, and to this day, that we could have gone one step further with it.
How so?
Just, we were writing Paradise in Me and the success of Not an Addict, and of course Not an Addict was a unique song, and I always felt like, Believe and Everything for Free can follow that up. We can sustain, especially since we have the kind of fans we've always had the kind of fans from the beginning who really wanted to know everything about us. It was never about one song. It was never like, oh, let's play Not an Addict at the end of our set because everybody leaves after. Like people were always into all of it. They knew all the songs by heart. They wanted to know all about Case Choice. So I feel like those people were all into Believe and Everything for Free as well. But I don't know. It was one of those deals where we were signed to a Belgian label, and then Epic 550 was kind of the sub-label. And I think if we had been signed directly to Sony here, and, Epic 550 had the benefit of having all of us instead of like a tiny little chunk, I think Cocoon Crash could have gone to another level because it was, our live shows were going amazing. We had this tour going with Tonic and the Verve Pipe, and we were doing all those sheds, those radio shows that year, and the follow up was very successful in Europe. Believe in Everything for Free followed Not an Addict fine, and it just kind of lacked that extra little punch where, to get from 0 to 250,000 albums is way harder than to get from 250 to 500.
Right,
Like
right.
it's that first part that's so hard. And it's just that extra push that I feel like, it could have gone a little. I mean, I don't want to dwell on it and with huge regret or something. We've had an amazing career, but since you mentioned Cocoon Crash and that era, that's always the first thing I think about when it comes to the States.
Right.
Like there could have been an extra little push there that I think would have put us in a slightly different category.
I was thinking that, in any era, and I could name a handful right now, there always seems to be that one producer that everybody wants. And I wasn't aware until recently that you all had worked with Gil Norton on that, which, I mean, he would work with everyone at that point, It was...
Yeah. He was amazing. And it's one of the reasons I'm still really proud of that record because, once in a while, if we haven't toured for a couple of months or something and I put Believer, Everything for Free back on and play along, sing along, make sure I'm ready for the tour, it surprises me every time, like, wow, it sounds so good still, It's just rock guitar-wise, It was just the right mixture. And I don't have it with everything I listen to that we've made, for sure. Like, things that I listen back to, like, I guess it was good at the time, but that didn't really stand the test of time that much. But with those songs like Cocoon Crash and Believe, Everything for Free, I listen to them. It's like, wow, it's a great guitar sound, great drum sound. It's still, it holds up still today. Like he did a fantastic job. I loved working with him. He was one of those producers that wasn't afraid to dig into the songs as well. And I mean, my brother and I wrote everything, but we definitely had like a week where he just sat in the middle of the room and threw things out there, and we tried some things. And Believe is definitely a great example of where he kind of kept pushing us until it turned into the song that it was. It was completely different in the beginning. So he was someone we wanted to work with. We were very proud that he wanted to work with us, and it worked out great.
Well, it's a solid sounding record. I enjoyed jumping back into that one as well. But but not So let's get back out of the past and into the present, because the newest one is called Love Equals Music. Now, there's a whole concept of this, right? Of this album.
Yeah, so it's kind of like we did a TV show in Belgium, and it's a concept. I kind of hope that it'll come to the States as well, because I think it'll do well. 6 bands or 6 artists get together. To some remote, we ended up in Barcelona, somewhere in a house near Barcelona. And the idea is to cover each other's songs. So the preparation is all done ahead of time. It's all with the same band. And of course, this whole show stands on this band because the band was world class, which made everything sound amazing. So you rehearse ahead of time, but none of the other artists know what the other artists are playing of them. And you can go really far with the covers. You can translate into a different language. You can, write different chords. You can turn a reggae song into a rock song. You can do whatever you want. It just has to have, it just has to kind of be a cover and still have some of the original. And then so when we're at the house in Spain, we spend a week there, and 2 shows get recorded every day there, and like one artist is like the main artist, and everyone else that night performs that artist's songs. And it was super fun. It's kind of like, I was reluctant at first because I have such an aversion toward reality TV. I thought like, we're going to be in a house and they're going to film us, and it's, drama, I'm not into that. And I was assured, because I don't live in Belgium, so I had never really seen the show. And I was assured it's all happy. Everyone's happy to be there. There's no drama. That's not what the reason they're doing it. They just want everyone to look great, and they want the music to sound great. And then I heard some of the songs, and I'm like, wow, it's like, how many shows are there still on TV where there's so much music?
Right.
The full songs like this. So there's like 7 full songs in an episode every night. And of course, it's all mixed and mastered afterwards, and it sounds like $1 million. It's amazing. So the recordings are those live recordings that are on the record. So we decided, like, this is a great opportunity for my brother and I to kind of do a little acoustic tour, the 2 of us, play those songs, do some songs since we're kind of celebrating, the 25 years, kind of in the vein of that, also do some songs that we grew up with that are important to us. So that's going to be part of the tour. But yeah, this record is mostly songs from that TV show, and then we added some acoustic things that we've done over the years.
Yeah, I was thinking, looking at some of these, like, a song like Stand My Ground, this original heavy song, or I'm So Excited, which was, a much more poppy thing. Breaking them down to this basic sound. I mean, it sort of says a lot about the clothes we put on music. It's when we kind of throw it to a genre or whatever, that it can, they're not as all different as I think we make them out to be.
Exactly. And that's actually what makes it really interesting, is that songs, even if it's not your genre, the reason they hold up is because they're good. And exactly what you're saying. You throw a different jacket on it, and it's like, oh, now I'm hearing the lyrics for the first time or something, because you're approaching it in a different way. And, even if you're not a disco fan, if you hear, the reason why I'm so excited stands the test of time is because it's a fantastic song, and you can put that in all kinds of different jackets, and it would still be amazing. And actually, since you mentioned that, another thing that was very interesting for me that I learned at this TV show is that I was a little nervous before we left because the other artists were not at all in our genre and not all necessarily music that I'm a fan of. And I thought, I don't know if this is going to be fun. You want it to be everything that you put your name on musically, you want it to be, high quality. You want to be part of something that's actually, that's good, that everybody wants to listen to. And it was such an eye-opener for me, and I was a little mad at myself for having to learn this at the age of 45. It was such an eye-opener. It's like, oh my gosh, we're all doing the same thing. It's so obvious right now. We were all sitting there in the house. We're all doing each other's songs with so much love and respect, and everyone worked really hard on their versions, really trying to make something special. And I realized while I was there, wow, why did I doubt this, and why did I feel like maybe we don't belong here, and or that some of the others don't really belong here? Why was I like that ahead of time? Everyone here is doing the exact same thing. It's in a different genre. It might not be exactly what I listen to or what I would put on myself, but it's all kind of the same deal. It's just all these little boxes that we make ahead of time, where things fit into. They're so incredibly unnecessary. And a week like that was amazing for us. It really was an amazing experience to be with musicians that we would never teamed up with and share this music every night that we were all so happy with. So it was really cool. I'm really glad I did it.
I do love the way it all kind of laid out in those different genres all over this record, the different languages that you've put on some of these songs. And of course, a few of them are nice. I'll call them, they're just pretty, straight and similar to the original, like No One Knows. I would never have expected to hear Kay's Choice do Queens of the Stone Age. But there it is, and it sounded great.
Well, at the end of every episode, the band that was featured that night got to do a cover of their own. All right, now you guys all played my song. Now I'm going to play something that I love, but that's not mine. And so that was our pick for the night, was Queens of the Stone Age. So we didn't not want to mess with it. We just I'm just going to try to sing it as well as I can. And I knew the band was fantastic, and I knew they could pull it off. Because I wouldn't touch that with any band, with just any band. That song, if it doesn't rock, it's just not worth it.
Right.
But yeah, it's just after all the soft-spoken, intimate, acoustic stuff, it's all right, we gotta stand up right here for a second, grab an electric guitar, and rock out.
Time to crank it up. I should bring up, there is one new song on it, right? Meaningless.
Yeah, that was actually a song that we wrote for our last studio album, The Phantom Cowboy, which is probably the most Queens of the Stone-y stuff we've ever done. Uh-huh. And we were determined to have that song rock all the way, that album rock all the way through. It was actually one of the only times we've made an album where we've said, no acoustic guitars. Every song has to be fun to play live. There could be no songs that were live, it's not perfect. Everything has to just and you got to imagine playing these songs in a sweaty 150 capacity club where everyone's too close together. And that was kind of the concept. And so Meaningless was this beautiful song that my brother had written that completely did not fit that mold in a million years. So we had it still, but I thought it was a beautiful song. So it was kind of a perfect opportunity to put it on this one.
Now, does now that you've been in covers land and 25 years land, and it's been a few years since that last studio album, is that something that's in the sights right now? Something that's brewing?
We want to keep going. We're still, like I was saying earlier, we still feel like we're writing better songs than we ever did, even though the interest has waned and we realize that people remember us from stuff that we did in the 90s. Creatively, we feel like we're still on the top of our game, and I have some other outlets, like I was saying earlier. I have a side project called Rex Rebel, and we just finished recording. And we're talking to labels right now. It's melodic still, but electronic, no guitars really. And that's been super fun because it's really it's enabling me to do something completely foreign and different, which is challenging and keeping me really on my toes. And then at the same time keep enjoying Kay's Choice and keep writing for that too. It's one of those things. I don't know if you've noticed that in life, but the harder you work, the more you want to. Like the more you're in that zone, like the more creative you get. So Rex Rebel has actually allowed me to enjoy Kay's Choice more again too, just because I'm having so much fun playing music, and I think that's been an active thing that I've been looking for throughout these 25 years. I got to find new things, new little challenges all the time to keep it interesting and not feel like you're just like you're turning into your own cover band.
Well, I'm really happy that you're still doing it too. And then, we always enjoy everything that you do, especially around here. It was funny yesterday as I was putting the final bits of research on the interview and I had our station on in the background. Your solo song, Not Insane, came on.
Ah, cool.
And it was just one of those moments that lined up and it's like, oh man, this sounds great. You always sound so good. We're always so happy.
Thanks so much.
No problem. That's it. It was real pleasure talking to you, Sarah. I really do appreciate it, and loving the new record, and can't wait to hear all this stuff that you're talking about for the future too.
Great. Thank you so much.
All right. Take care.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.
Hey, thanks so much to Sarah Bettens of Kay's Choice. The brand new record is called Love Equals Music. Don't forget, you can subscribe to Consequence of Sound's YouTube channel to keep up with your favorite artists and interviews. If you're listening to the podcast, iTunes, Podchaser, wherever you're getting this from, hit that subscribe button, give us a rating, leave a review, and then head over to WFPK.org. That's where I do a show every Monday through Thursday from noon to 3 Eastern. You can also find some bonus episodes of this series over there. I'm Kyle Meredith, and I'll see you next time.
Consequence Podcast Network.